Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, or not so much my channel, more just a singular video. This might be the only video that I ever really create or upload, so I don't want to make it a big deal like this is a crazy, you're going to be able to binge watch all of my episodes kind of channel thing. So this is a random video. I wasn't really sure how to make it or if it would be informative to really anybody, but I figured maybe there's like one or two people out there who have this question or might be doing this, and so I thought maybe it would be a little helpful. Today I'm actually just recording one take. I know it's a little bit taboo within the YouTube community to do a one-take video, but I don't have any crazy editing software and I'm recording on my phone, my iPhone, not even the X, just the 8. So it's gonna be one take, and if it's awful, then it's awful, but if it's okay, then great, awesome. So I want to tell you guys a little bit today about my experience interviewing at Lululemon, and you're going to be able to hear my dog eating in the background. But I do want to go over today my experience interviewing at Lululemon and kind of the outcome of my interview. So I know a lot of people apply part-time jobs, full-time jobs, retail, food, whatever it might be, and you sink yourself into these crazy long interviews. They're all pretty much the same. You go to the interview, they're all pretty identical, and then you wait about 2 weeks and you find out if you get the job. All very basic. Lululemon was a little bit different, and I feel like that's kind of why I want to explain to you guys sort of my perspective and maybe how you would view it too if you were to go to the interview. So let's start off with the process. It was actually a fairly quick process. I was impressed with that. I started off with just an application. I was looking for full-time. They were actually hiring for, what's it called? Oh, an educator. That's the word. It was an educator, and I read online that an educator could be part-time or could be full-time, depending on the store location, depending on the time of the year and the needs. So I looked into the benefits. I saw that you could get yoga classes, basically for free if you worked for them. You could work within a really good environment. Of course, I've never shopped at Lululemon, which is probably my first downfall. I've never even been in a store, but I figured most retail shops are pretty similar, and if I could research the company a bit, then maybe I could figure out if I wanted to work there. So the application was actually the first thing that was a little bit different from anywhere else I'd applied. Start out very basic. You put your name in, put your experience, you do your resume, your cover letter, all that good stuff, same as all the other online interviews. And then from there is where it got a little bit interesting. They did a questionnaire, and I know in most cases with questionnaires, you do them and they're all pretty repetitive. It's these scales of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 or whatever it might be, and it's asking you, in a team setting, do you agree that you're supposed to work together? And 1 would be completely disagree, 5 would be completely agree, and then somewhere in the middle if you wanted to. So I was fully expecting that. And so opened up the questionnaire, and that was the first surprise that I got. And I was a little thrown off. It was very out there questions. It was things like, what inspires you in life? Who is your favorite artist and why? What's your biggest inspiration? What gets you through the days? I believe there was one that was, what's your favorite physical activity? Which does make sense because realistically most people are going to be answering yoga, Pilates. I answered field hockey because I did field hockey growing up, and I did track and field as well. So I just kind of gave them some of my sporting backgrounds, and I thought maybe that would work in my favor because a lot of people that shop there aren't just yoga people, they're sport people that are looking for sporting gear. So I put in my experience, and from there, a lot of the questions were very similar to that. They were really trying to kind of get to the base of the person and sort of, I guess, disconnect from that stereotypical workplace application that takes you like 2 hours to complete. This one was relatively quick. I would say the whole application from start to end, getting registered, everything like that, maybe took about half an hour, but that's because I overthink my answers on everything, and I went really in depth on everything that I did. So I submitted my application, and from there it was a little bit different too. I got an email, and the email was actually from the direct, I believe it was the assistant manager within the store, and so she emailed and said, we're looking forward to an interview in person with you. If you'd like to come into our group interview, please come in. Here are the times available. I believe she gave me 2 or 3 times and days that I could choose from, and I picked the soonest one because, in my opinion, you should get in as quick as you can. So I picked the soonest one, and the thing that stood out to me within the email was actually that you needed to dress casually for it. And it wasn't so much casually like business casual, it was casually like, it said in there, be prepared that you might have to sit on the floor. And I was a little thrown off. I mean, not entirely, because it is a yoga brand, so I thought maybe they'd be explaining the job a little bit, but I took it as you were supposed to wear yoga material, yoga clothes. I do not own any Lululemon, so I was a little bit thrown off by this. So I decided to ask a friend if I could borrow some of her Lululemon, just because I felt like it was necessary to kind of blend in. I felt like a lot of people that were interviewing probably had shopped there before. So I said, hey, I need some Lululemon. I'll throw on, my Nike shoes with it. Cool. So I got some leggings for my friend. I got a shirt, and I just wore my sports bra. Very basic. So I went to the interview. The interview was bright and early in the morning. It was actually prior to the store opening. And I went into the interview, and I was not totally confident in it just because it was outside of my comfort zone. It wasn't something that I had done before. And I showed up, mind you, and I don't want to get too political or too crazy, but the amount of girls that were there was fairly small, but they all looked very similar. I'm a curvy girl myself. I am a 12, 14, different days, different sizes, different brands. So my experience is I automatically put my brain towards Lululemon, and seeing how their campaigns kind of work, I thought it was going to be a certain body type going into it, and it did dull my confidence slightly, because once I was there, it was very much a specific type of person. All of the girls that were there were long hair, either blonde or brunette, very slim figures, very stereotypical kind of yoga looking. And I know that sounds awful, and I don't want to seem too judgy, but that's kind of just what I got from it. It was about 7 girls besides myself, and they all just fit this very exact build and kind of look to them. So we got into the interview. They basically greeted everybody. It was extremely upbeat. It was a little bit scary. They were like, hi, how you doing? Welcome to Lululemon. We're going to be interviewing you today. And I was like, that's fine. I know. That's why we're here. So we went to the interview, and the interview for us was actually outside. So we went outdoors and sat on like a little patio with a really big table. The sun was blinding that day, so I could hardly even open my eyes. But we sat down, and they basically handed us out papers that asks our availability. We put the availability in online, which I thought was a little bit repetitive, but they gave us these papers, and it broke down our availability. Check off if you were fully available. Put on there if you wanted full-time or part-time. I put full-time. That was my only interest. I'm assuming if maybe I put part-time, I would have had a little bit of a better chance. They didn't really talk much about full-time, which was a little bit discouraging to me, because I feel like most companies should want some full-time employees, but it's fine. And then we moved on into the questions, which, you expect questions to be pretty run-of-the-mill at this point for most interviews. They ask you, why do you want to work for the company? They ask you your previous experience, what you think you've done that relates to the role, everything like that. I've done quite a few interviews at this point. So I got into this interview, and that's really what I was expecting, but that wasn't fully the case. The first question that was actually asked, and I guess they called it like an icebreaker, was, what was it? It was, oh yeah, what's one really odd quirk that you have about yourself, or one tendency that you do that you found that's pretty repetitive and something that's really out there that nobody else would really do or know about. And I keep going back to how basic the majority of the girls seemed within the interview. They were all super prepared with like these really out there answers. I had to think a bit. I didn't mind the questions, but they were so far left field of something that you would find in an interview that I hadn't really prepared myself for it. I think I ended up answering something along the lines of like deja vu, and how if like something happens that I think is going to happen again, I'll like do like this number and like break the cycle. It was very weird. Wasn't a fan of my answer, but I answered it because I couldn't think of anything else. And then we ended up going into more questions, and the questions as a whole weren't extremely related to the company or to the stores as far as I could tell. They ask a lot of like customer-based questions. There was a lot of like, how would you interact with customers? I believe one of the questions was, how would you represent the brand, and how would you show that the brand was, you know, promoting a healthy lifestyle? And they never mentioned diversity, and I think that was something that bothered me. I really didn't feel comfortable within the interview just based off of the type of girls that were there. And then as a whole, oh, my kitten has jumped up on the table. Frederick. Hi. Okay. But the diversity was never really mentioned, and I don't shop at Lululemon, as I said, because I just as a whole do not feel like I fit their vibe and kind of what they're going for customer wise. And this interview just kind of solidified it. They were very much into fitness, which is fine. I mean, that's their brand, and they were very much into, you know, helping people feel comfortable. But I don't feel like as a whole diversity was mentioned, and I think that was something that really didn't resonate with me and didn't really strike me very well. So I got through the whole interview. The interview as a whole was not the best experience, but I did get through it. And I just felt like by the end of it, these girls had already kind of formed cliques with the ones that were interviewing outside of me. I don't want to play victim, and I understand that everybody can perceive things differently, but walking off, the assistant manager and the manager of the store had selected about 4 girls that they decided to group up with and break off and kind of chat with after the interview. And I just don't feel like that's something that's necessary with an interview. You shouldn't be picking favorites from right after. Some of them seem like they already knew the assistant manager and manager, which, you know, at this point in the world, it is more who you know, not what you know, and I understand that too. But I didn't have the best experience with it. So I just kind of wanted to share my experience with the interview and sort of what I went through going to it. And I will say, they did respond relatively quick. It took them only about a week to get back to me after the interview about the status of it. And I think it was an email, and I believe it was an email from the original person who sent it, who just said, we've decided that your qualifications do not match up with exactly what we need. And mind you, I have decent qualifications. I'm actually the equivalent of an assistant manager within a retail department in a theme park, and so my qualifications are decent, given that I was applying for basically just a sales consultant position. So I don't know. I just wanted everybody to kind of, if you're looking at Lululemon and if you're looking to apply, I would suggest just make sure that you go in with a really open mind, and that you're prepared for some pretty out there questions and some, you know, maybe very non-diverse groups of people in your interview. That's the best way I can explain it. I hope this was helpful to some people, and I do hope that, you know, if you're applying there and you really do want it, I hope that's something that you can go for and that it works out well for you. I'm currently applying to a few other companies, so if I hear back from any of those and I feel like they might be helpful to you guys, I will definitely share my experience, because I want to make sure interviews can be publicized like this and kind of show people what to expect, because it's really important. You go in blind a lot of the times now, and with the online process, it's so impersonal. So I hope that this is something that I can continue and I can kind of help you guys out. So anyways, I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I hope this video was somewhat interesting and helpful to you. Okay, have a good day. Bye guys.